So I've tried to do this video about 5 times already, and it really ties into what we're talking about today. But let me start off with a story. So I'm in university right now, and when it comes to lecture time, stuff like that, I almost never ask a question, even if I have one. I usually always wait for someone else to ask, or I'll just ask the person beside me. It's like, hey, do you know what's going on here? Can you explain this? Rather than asking the prof. And I think that kind of has to do with the competence, the feeling of competence, stuff like that. And for me, it's uncomfortable to feel competence. But on one of these days, I had a really good chat with a friend before one of my lectures, and I was feeling great. I was feeling motivated. I was feeling appreciated. And I went into the class, and throughout the lecture, I was very, very engaged. But there's one time I just instinctively raised my hand and asked a question. It wasn't even like, oh, I wanted to. It was like a knee-jerk reaction. I wanted to raise my hand, and there's no resistance doing that. And after I asked the question, and it was a good question, of course, I turned to one of my friends in my class, and I was like, this is probably the first time I've ever asked a question in class, or at least in the last 3 years. And just that realization was really, really great. It kind of gave me just this idea of, wow, when we have people around us that kind of hype us up, it's a lot easier to make mistakes. And this is where it comes into our topic. Because I want to talk about confidence today, because being confident I wouldn't really describe myself as a confident person. In general. In some aspects I am, in some aspects I'm not, but in general I wouldn't consider myself a confident person. And I find it really interesting how there's people who are naturally confident that no matter what the situation is, they react the same. Or they have clarity and surety about the things that they do. It's really interesting. But I want to start off with kind of getting overall definition like I do, because it's a lot easier to kind of frame how I think about it when I have a concrete definition to go around. So I think of confidence as the ability to be yourself, or the ability to undertake the same actions in a certain situation, no matter what the conditions are or what the environment is. So in a sense, it's no matter if you're with your friends or with your family or with a total stranger, you kind of act the same, or your appearance of who you are is the same. It doesn't change as you go from person to person, group to group. Your identity stays the same. And at the age that I am in right now, being 21, I've really only had about 3.5 years of adulting. I've had 18 years of being a child. And when you're a child, you are developing an identity for yourself. You are born with an identity. And as you go on, that identity is less and less about who your parents are, more and more who you are. So your values, they become more concrete and they become more individualized. And I feel like I'm still trying to find out that those values that I'm that are me, that's really just they really just characterize who I am. And I think that has a lot to do when I was, younger. My identity was kind of all over the place, and that's why my confidence was all over the place. I always think back to when I was younger, that I would always change what I would talk about, how I would talk about things or be around people, how I would act, and how kind of my quote unquote values would change depending on the person around. The perception of my values would change. And when I was younger, it was always being trying to be flexible to who I was around with rather than be myself. And likewise, when I needed something or wanted something from someone, there was very little confidence, because when you need something or want something from someone and you have to ask for it, it's probably not necessarily within their, it's not a common thing to be around. What am I trying to say? When you're around someone and you need something to happen, if it's a common thing, it'll happen without you saying it. But if you need something, if your needs are not met around someone, then it's something that is it's not status quo. Not status quo. I would say against the identity, but I wouldn't say that. But that takes confidence, because it's essentially you're doing something or asking for something that's outside of the group identity, or could be outside of the group identity, but it's what you need. It's your identity. And I just think that when I was younger, it was so much harder, because it would always be I would be aware of what the reactions might be, and I always take in perspective into consideration their viewpoint or what they would say or how they would feel, rather than what I would feel. I put more significance on getting other people to appreciate me than for me to appreciate myself. And I would have just not a lot of confidence doing a lot of social things, a lot of things that are outside my my routine, because I wanted people to like me. And going now through university, being by yourself, stuff like that, essentially being by myself, I've learned a lot of what do I value, and trusting my beliefs and my opinions and all that stuff. It's been really nice to feel I know what I need to do in a certain situation, and to take care of myself more and more, in terms of putting myself away and taking care of other people. But the idea of confidence is so kind of abstract, because you always see those people that just exuberate confidence. No matter the situation, they're just being themselves. And even if they're being quote unquote a dick, they're being themselves. And maybe in the moment it's I don't want to be this guy. But it's that being yourself in all situations. It's just really interesting to see those people that are able to do that like that. Not to say that you are able to adjust to different circumstances. I think that's great, but I feel in for me, it was always a must to adjust to people, and that caused me to have lack confidence. But more and more now, I'm able to kind of be aware and understand. It's maybe in this situation, I can, in terms of my own values and what I feel is best, it is good to change. So it's not a must to change. It's I want to change, which is a whole other topic that I love to talk about. But I think the idea of confidence, it gets built around security, because the more secure you are, and if we're talking about basic human needs, so food, water, shelter, socialization, the more secure you are, the more you're able to just be yourself. Because, hey, I got everything I want. And I'm myself. Why would I change? Why would I change? I don't need to change. I'll just be myself. Um, and when you don't have that, especially when you're growing up, the confidence, it doesn't get built naturally. And I think because of how I was raised, because of what my perceived identity wasn't my own, and just a lack of listening and being heard when I was younger from both family and friends, I always felt it's like, oh, if I be myself, my needs are not going to be met as well as if I try to be someone else, if I try to accommodate people. And that is such a great coping mechanism for that situation. Like it's so smart that people are able to adjust to people to fulfill their basic human needs. But at the same time, when you're not being yourself, oh my God, that's so draining. Because you have to put so much energy into doing stuff that's not just your knee-jerk reaction. It's like almost like you have a filter in your head. It's like, oh, this is good. I have a thought, filter it out. Should I say that? Oh, no, didn't pass the filter. Okay, go on to the next thing. And so I think a lot of people, the confident people when they're younger, they have the surety, they have the all their needs are met, so they are able to function by being completely themselves. And the idea of confidence and how to build confidence is, I feel like people don't necessarily understand. Like, people try to be confident, but they don't understand where confidence comes from specifically. And now that I'm an adult and I'm blessed to have the food, water, shelter, I don't need to worry about that affecting my confidence. It's mostly the social part. And this is kind of my thinking. It's like a lot of people think confidence comes with it. I 30% agree with that. Because if you don't have your basic needs met, and your basic needs, the only one that's left out is being social and having fallbacks, safety nets, and people to talk to, connections, oh my God, connections, then it's really hard to be confident in yourself because you don't know where your needs are going to be met next. So when it comes to confidence, a lot of words comes to mind of being positive, have a high self-esteem, have high self-efficacy. There's others, but if we all group them together and just call them confidence, they're all based on your social needs. If you don't have people around you to fulfill your social needs, how can you be confident? How can you be sure that who you are is who you need to be? Because it wasn't working. If you don't have the people around you, then in your mind it's like, oh, maybe I should try something new, be someone different. But that just leads a more draining life. So it's such a rock and a hard place when it comes to people who don't have confidence because they don't have the social or whatever need is not being fulfilled. Because it's not being fulfilled, then they have a lack of confidence. A lack of confidence means that they're probably not going to have the ability to get their needs met. It's one of these feedback loops, and it's really, really hard to get out of that. But the idea of it being completely, you can build confidence by yourself is, I don't think that's necessarily possible. It is directly linked to the things you have around you. And when it comes to that, because there are people in the world that will have opposite viewpoints of view, opposite values in life, and when you're surrounded by people who have opposite values in life, then you would have to adjust to their values, and then you're not being yourself, and then you're not going to be confident. You're taking someone else's needs in front of yours. So the secret is finding people to essentially allow yourself to be yourself. That if you're yourself, then your needs are going to be met. That's the goal when it comes to confidence. And having that is something I felt more of, but I haven't felt like the complete confidence of being able to be myself directly without kind of filtering it through my brain in conversations, stuff like that. It's like, should I say this? Or is this optimal? When I'm able to feel like those thoughts never come up, then I know I have confidence. But one of the other things that's a struggle, especially with people my age and a little bit younger, is you're still building your value systems. You're still building what's important to you. And it's hard to build confidence in yourself when you don't know what your values are. You don't know who you should be around to get all your needs fulfilled. And that's a big thing in today's society, because it's a lot of people don't understand, aren't able to get to the point to where they know themselves. And if you can't know yourself, if you don't have that understanding of who you are, then how can you be confident? How can you be sure that your needs will be met? Because your needs will, if you're confident, if your value system changes or is fluid, then what you need will be fluid. But that's just so much harder you need to adjust. Adjusting takes energy. Energy loses confidence. And it's just such a interesting idea. That I think the main thing, the biggest thing when it comes to confidence is if you understand what your values are in life, then it's so much easier to find people that accommodate those values, that actually that love that you have those values. It's a lot easier to find those people. But that takes time. That sometimes takes a lifetime to figure that out. And I'm on this kind of path of understanding. It's like, oh yeah, trying to build my identity of who I am and what I stand for is really hard when I haven't had that social this social fulfillment, the social safety nets in my life. So as I'm going on, I'm progressing, and it's hard because building those things up takes time. So I was thinking about this, and this was before I was recording, and it's like, if we get discouraged of ourselves, that we aren't confident or don't have self-esteem or any of this self, the opinions on ourselves, if we believe that the opinions that we have on ourselves is and where we are is following the negative side, then it's just that feedback loop again. You're gonna feel less confident in yourself because you're gonna beat yourself up, and that's gonna mean you're gonna adjust to other people, and it's a feedback loop. So thinking it's like, oh, I'm not confident right now, that's a bad thing. If you think it's a bad thing, it's just gonna get worse. But it's one of those Jedi mind tricks where thinking that something is poor, who you are is poor, your beliefs are poor, it's just gonna fulfill. It's just good. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, Now, on the other hand, I don't believe that thinking, oh, my belief system is great, when you're an unconfident person, because you're just lying to yourself. What is really important is to accept where you are, because once you accept where you are, the resistance to go up is so much easier, because it's really a self-awareness problem. So accepting where you are, knowing, having a lot of the information of who you are and what you stand for. And even if you're not confident, it's a lot easier to just be a spectator and watch different things like, oh, is this affecting my confidence? Than if it's like, oh, I'm not confident right now. You think it's inwardly rather than outwardly. But that's such a hard thing to do. It's such a hard thing to do, to kind of put the ego aside, to put the opinions on yourself aside, and kind of be a spectator to who you are. Yeah, I'm resonating with that, because it's just such a hard idea to when you don't have your needs fulfilled when you're younger, or where you are right now. You can't trick yourself saying, hey, I got my needs, I'm fulfilled, I'm great. Your subconscious brain will not understand that. What they will understand is that, hey, I want my needs, I need a little bit more needs, but I'm still alive, I'm still around, I'm still kicking. If my needs change, or if things change in the next time frame, I'll still be here. And just the acceptance and the clarity of like, yeah, okay, I've been sitting in this lack of confidence for a while, and I'm still around. I'm still doing things. I'm still doing well. Do I need to change? Maybe not. Do I want to change? Hell yeah! Oh yeah! But again, it's a feeling of, I want to build more confidence rather than I need to build more confidence. I think that's the main thing. And the hope is that building confidence, being more confident, more sure of yourself, will increase satisfaction in one's life, and most likely will. But that's only the case if there's self-awareness involved. It's really hard to get to that point, and I'm progressing. So I'm looking forward to how, in the next little bit, how I can kind of build up my confidence and feel sure. But I think that idea for me right now and today is to try to be a spectator to my own inner thoughts and my own needs, and to see where some things are lacking, and to kind of accommodate my value system, so that my needs are